welcome once more to River Landing Conversations. My name is Jim Kalaki. I'm here with my good friend Kay Heflin, and for the next 11 or 12 weeks, we will be asking to join you on Friday afternoons at 3 o'clock here on 1390, and we will have a series of conversations with people who are residents or staff members at River Landing. The point of these sessions is to introduce you to fellow residents and fellow staff members who have interesting stories to tell. Doesn't mean there are other people who don't have interesting stories, but they'll only allow us on here once a week. So anyhow, we're delighted to start this spring series, and to start this spring series with Chauncey Brown. Now, I should explain that this is Chauncey. Some of you may not recognize him because he doesn't have a mask on. And I think this may be one of the first times I've seen you, Chauncey, without a mask.
It is rare.
Chauncey, as many of you know, is one of the maitre d's in the Water's Edge and has been responsible for lots of us having fabulous service in that facility over the past several years. So, Chauncey, welcome to our conversation. And, let me start out by asking you, you've seen some of these questions, but this one is sort of what's in a name. And you have perhaps the most interesting first name at River Landing, or one of them anyhow. And we're always sort of curious about how you got your name. Do you like it? If you don't like it, what would you call yourself? And we'll go from there.
Alrighty. Well, my name, when I was young, didn't really like it that much. But as I became older, or had become older, or grown, it has grown on me. Uh, my mom, she was very much in education, and my oldest brother, he took on the name of my father. So she named me after a principal that she had in high school that was very instrumental in her life, very key to her getting her education and doing the best that she could. So she named me after him. That's where the name Chauncey comes from.
Probably made his day.
Yeah. Well, I would hope so.
Chauncey, where are you from? Where did you grow up?
I'm originally from Galax, Virginia.
Okay.
Just a little place about maybe an hour and a half from here, not far.
Small town boy?
Very small. One red light, no stop signs.
I can identify.
Road.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. When I was grade school, 5 or 6, went to school in Winston-Salem, and that's where I actually reside in Louisville now. But went to UNCG, and all my time has been pretty much in the Carolinas.
Okay. What did you study at UNCG?
Business administration and economics.
Okay.
And here we are.
Here you are.
Yes.
And what did you work at before you came to River Landing?
Actually, I was at Arbor Acres.
Oh,
another retirement community.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I was there, and I was over the purchasing department, purchasing manager, procurement of all the goods that the residents, they're eating, their equipment, things of that sort. And that's where I met Joe Lewis.
You beat me to the next question.
Okay,
please go ahead.
But that's Joe and I. We had a mutual friend, a gentleman named Jeff. But that's where I met Joe, and we worked together at Arbor Acres, and then it kind of led to being here. So, in a different role, but it's the same. When you purchasing food, purchasing things, the main thing to keep in mind is resident satisfaction all the time.
Yeah.
Just resident satisfaction. If you keep that at the center of the focus, everything will go well. You'll have a good day.
And ideally, you don't run out of oranges 2 days before the next order comes. How do you manage that? I mean, it's a flip comment, but to make sure that you know enough about your trade that you don't run out of oranges, or is it inevitable once in a while that
Well,
will happen?
in that system, working with our breakers, uh, it's basically math.
Yeah,
I mean, it's good old arithmetic. If they, because their habits of eating, they're the same.
yeah,
It's cyclical. It's weekly. They enjoy pretty much the same meal on Monday,
yeah,
Tuesday. It doesn't vary that much. And so once you put a system in place of how much is going to be consumed, the amount of people, the amount of consumption, that's the purchase. You take inventory, what's left, what's needed, and you make it happen. And that goes back to probably the job that I first had when I first got out of college. I worked at a Kentucky Fried Chicken.
uh-huh.
I'm kind of dating myself because then it was Kentucky Fried Chicken and now it's KFC.
Yeah,
And it was pretty much the same thing. Again, the habits. We could fill out charts from opening to close, and believe it or not, on a given Wednesday, the spikes, the peaks, everything was the same. If you sold so much on this Wednesday, barring any extraneous situation, it was going to be the same thing the next Wednesday. And just hanging on to that knowledge over the years helped at Arbor Acres.
Gotcha. When did you come to River Landing?
I've been at River Landing, we're approaching right at about 3 years, a few days, a few hours. It's
Really close.
really close.
Okay.
It's right at about 3 years.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about what your responsibilities are. We see you out in front.
Well, at here, I'm a dining room supervisor. I, again, catering to the residents, seating, meal satisfaction, uh, table preference,
Mhm.
whims of the residents, what they may like, seating where they like to be, where they don't like to be, who they like to sit with, who
Yeah.
they don't like to sit with. And it's just a running tally of all of that on a given day to kind of help that they make sure they have the best experience possible.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you hang on to all of that.
And how many people work with you in, well, let's say on, when things are more or less normal, when you have your staff slots, if you will, filled?
On a given day, Monday through all days, with the exception of Sunday. Sunday's a little heavier. Uh, it may be anywhere from 4 or 5 in the morning to around 10 to 12 at night.
Mhm.
And then on Sunday, you're looking at, bring them all in.
Yeah,
Everybody come. So it's about, you get about the same number, 12, 13 people. And then, of course, you have Sarah, you have Joe.
yeah.
But as far as actual staff, it's maybe 10 to 13 people.
And do you and Joe and Sarah um, divide the recruiting between, or how does that work? Because obviously, lots of the people that work there are younger and they go away to college or they're in school and they can't manage 10
Yeah.
things at once. And how does that? How do you all?
Actually, a lot of the recruitment, it really comes from Joe, but actually in this environment, believe it or not, we almost have an incredible pipeline
Yeah,
with a couple of the high schools. A lot of the students that you may see that you come to know, they are a referral from another student that graduated and then left, and they may bring someone in, they may bring friends in. And that's kind of how we work it, or that's how it's worked. Uh, again, referrals, you know, Joe brought me in, kind of a referral.
Right.
To the employees or the staff, pretty much works the same way. And again, the high school that's closed, or a couple of the high schools, friends beget friends. Uh, if an employee is a very decent, a very solid worker, if they make a referral, well, you act accordingly.
Mhm.
If if it's at the other end of the spectrum, you act accordingly.
Well, I think
So,
that speaks, though, for the work atmosphere that you guys provide for the other staff members, that, they feel comfortable, they've enjoyed their work experience here enough to recommend it to a friend.
absolutely, and then we as we cater to the residents in today's work environment, you kind of have to cater to the employees as well, cater to the staff. If they're having a bad day, recognize that. Recognize that. Take some load off of them.
Yeah.
If they're on and everything's clicking and they're doing well, they may be able to withstand a little more and absorb some of, if their partner or their teammate is lacking somewhat, they can pick up the slack a little bit. But as a supervisor, manager, part of the team, you've got to recognize that.
Yeah.
Recognize their strengths, their weaknesses, uh, and exploit the ones that you seek to keep in terms of their strength. Yeah.
Could you talk about I was just thinking, if I come in as a new staff member and I don't have much experience, what sort of training? I'm assuming there is a training program
It is.
routine. Could you just talk about that, what that looks like?
Uh, we'll take a server.
Okay.
If a new server comes in, and male or female, what we'll try to do at the beginning, they may be with Jolene, they may be with myself, kind of walking through some of the daily expectations, or even with Joe,
Mm.
some of the daily expectations. And then from there, we'll try to pair them with a very strong individual. As what I alluded to earlier, those that have strength, you want them to glean the same strength and act accordingly. So you pair them with someone that's very strong, someone that understands the climate of the room, so to speak,
Yeah.
understands how to cater to the residents. You know, picking on the slightest whims. I like my coffee whatever way. So you pair them with strength, and then that strength hopefully will be shared. And something that I always like to say whenever a new person comes, when you teach a person, you should teach them to the very best that you can. If you don't know the answer, that's okay. Get the answer. No one knows all,
Mm-hmm.
but everyone can get the answer. And when you're teaching, if you teach, this is the peg that you're trying to get to. And if you take shortcuts, this is the peg or this is the mark, and you teach to here, by the time that person develops their own shortcuts and whatever they may do, they may end up here.
Yeah.
And then a couple of months, you'll say, oh, wow, they're not what we thought they were going to be. Well, let's go back to week 1, week 2, when you may have been on your phone, when you could have been doing something a little different. Hey, we need to be checking on the residents, circling back around to the table. And then you 2 or 3 weeks later, or a month, months into it, that same person, that habit of maybe being on their phone versus checking on the residents, well, that's a little ding in the arm, so to speak. So again, it starts from the very beginning. What they see you do, they will replicate. So we try to encourage them to do the very best you can. Just do the best you can.
Chauncey, you started your career working more with numbers
Yes.
and items.
Yes.
And now you're in a very people-oriented position, and you seem like you truly know and understand how to reach out to people. Was there something else in your background that helped you lead into this people person?
Actually, when I was at Kentucky Fried Chicken (KFC), I actually moved to Pepsi Cola. And at Pepsi Cola, I was a district manager working with route guys. teaching them the trade of Pepsi. Then within Pepsi, I got into the marketing aspect of Pepsi,
Okay.
marketing brand Pepsi, selling it, having key customers. And it was always about
Okay.
building rapport with customers and making sure that you had the best place in the store.
Mhm.
I recall I was well, this has been a while back. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Bilo. It was a Bilo food
Yes.
chain. I
Yeah.
was the key account manager for Pepsi, and I called on them. Well, at that time, Bilo had about 30, 35 stores. Not a lot, but it was my account. So we did the best we could. And just to share a quick, another quick food line is maybe had right around maybe 300 stores. So when you start selling, I developed a relationship with, he was a vice president, and the average amount of cases that were sold in Bilo, we averaged over 95,000, almost to 100,000 cases a year in each Bilo store. Where Food Line had many more stores, their average was around 27 to 30,000. So again,
Interesting.
the dynamics of relationship building,
Yeah.
it's just relationships. They're key in life,
Indeed.
at work, at home, especially at home. Just
Yeah.
building relationships.
Okay. Interesting. We've talked a little bit about it, but what does your typical day look like?
My typical day is arriving, getting here, uh, trying to put on or trying to feel good about
Mhm.
being here, and then it's first thing is grabbing a beverage, a
Okay.
nice cup of water,
Oh, okay.
a nice water to get my day started, and then it's really kind of a continuation of what took place last night. Are there any out of stock situations? Or are there anything that we don't have to prepare a meal with? Is there anything? Are we out of a special? Kind of having that knowledge, so once everyone comes in, you can communicate to them, hey, we're out of the not worse
This is a
sausage.
situation.
Yeah, it's a situation. Don't suggest it. Or we out of chicken salad.
Mhm.
Hey, stay away from it. Or let the residents know as soon as they arrive. That way, that takes that expectation out of it.
Yes.
You communicate to the team. You have a quick huddle, a quick lineup, explaining all of these things. If there's a special party, something special going on, communicate to the or to the servers as soon as possible, so they're knowing. And then I kind of like to get a pulse of the team as they come in, and you can see on any given day who's on and who's not on.
Mhm.
And that helps shape your day. If everyone's on, the workday should go easy. If one or two are off, you can have a very challenging day. But even to that, you still get through it. It's really just monitoring things as the day progresses to ensure resident satisfaction.
Right, right. Do you have a favorite memorable river landing experience that sort of jumps out when you think about your time here?
Actually, not a. It's not necessarily a favorite, but or a favorite would be something that's wrapped around the same thing. Residents having joy,
Yeah.
whether they are celebrating a birthday, whether they are celebrating a special day, St. Patty's Day, they're having a party, their favorite football team played on Saturday, and they're excited about that. When they have joy, it makes the day go a lot better. And again, to the other end of that spectrum, when it's different,
Mhm.
it's different. But memorable moments of when the residents, when they're turned on, you see the twinkle in their eye,
Yeah.
the extra hop in their skip, the giddy up is a little higher, and those are the memorable moments. Again, it's not one; it's just a plethora of all of them coming together on each given day.
Did anything take you by surprise coming here from Arbor Acres? It's like, oh wow.
Um, Having the experience at Arbor Acres was a little different because at Arbor Acres I was more of a behind the
Behind the
scene
scenes.
guy.
Okay.
I kind of like, stayed away from, I just was a behind the scene to make sure things were taken care of. But the interaction with the residents that I had there simulates some of the interaction that I have here. There were those that I got to know at Arbor Acres, and we would pick it up, so to speak,
Yeah.
and we'd share a conversation about different things. And some of the residents here, it's the same. It's very much the same.
Mhm.
But again, it goes back to that same twinkle in the eye, the giddy up in the step, seeing them being joyful. So, from that it parallels and it's the same.
Sure.
Are there things that you would like folks to know about you that they mightn't already know, aside from the fact of what you look like without a mask?
um, to that, what I look like without a mask. I'm going to pretend this back on. Sorry. Sorry about that. The snafu. It jumped off it. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know how that happened. Probably something that you don't know. And I know we said at the beginning, family or whatever is kind of off limits, and it is. But probably some know, but not a lot. I I have two amazing daughters, and they really kind of get me going.
Mm-hmm.
I have two daughters. They're 5 years apart. Um, they're born on the same day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Christmas Eve.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Oh,
my.
wow. Ah,
They're very special young ladies. They have they're very they have the intellectual horsepower to do whatever they set their minds to. The oldest one, she graduated from Chapel Hill. The youngest one graduated from NC State. Uh, the youngest, she graduated with a 4.0 at NC State. The youngest graduated, she didn't do quite as well, but she tried. She graduated from Chapel Hill with a 3.9. So I don't know how that's viewed in today's world, but I'll take it.
I should say.
And they have the same thing when it comes to life as children. They were always ultra competitive as they grew. When the youngest was old enough to understand what was going on, it was, I'm gonna beat up Alexis. I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna do better. And they strive. They push each other, and they make it happen. So continue to look forward to great things coming from them. And that's probably, like I said, a lot of people don't know that. I really don't share that a lot, but it's my daughters. They really.
I just have this image of Christmas in your house, which must be quite, you must have had quite some Christmases
Well,
from time to time.
it used to be cute.
Yeah.
Now it's expensive. And actually, back when they were, a lot younger, we would normally celebrate their birthday maybe the Saturday after Thanksgiving
Oh, okay.
or the following Saturday, but we would try to separate it to keep it separate so they could actually feel a birthday, feel that, it's my birthday, the birthday cake, the candles, the singing, the joy, that different piece, and not don't let the lines blur because a lot of times when we celebrate Christmas, we celebrate on Christmas Eve, and it would take away. It's Christmas Eve, it's their birthday, so we try to separate it as much as possible.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Wow. Chauncey, one of our stock questions is if you had the opportunity and all the details were sorted out to sit with two or three or four people in all of time, who would they be and why?
Hmm. Probably one would be probably Colin Powell.
Mm-hmm.
as he served in the ranks, and he had a very instrumental role through administration. He wasn't the president, but he was kind of a powerful man behind the scene, making key decisions. Really like to spend some time with him. And I know maybe lunch would be good, but I would kind of like spend just a couple of days
Yeah.
to kind of really peel the onion and get back to some of the things that, what made him tick, what got his gears going. He would be one. And then, of course, uh, it'd probably be Barack, President or former President Barack Obama, and some of the same things, the challenges that he may or may not have faced, because we understand the dynamics of some of the dynamics of what he went through by being the first, and we understand what the first is. So we won't elaborate on that, but how what was a typical meeting like, joint session, holding, got the cabinet members together. What was it like? What were you feeling? Uh, what were you publicly feeling and what were you privately feeling? And really just, kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of that. And then if there was anyone else, maybe I'm a sports guy, maybe Hank Aaron,
Mm. Yeah.
when he broke the record. Again, that first, that those things are, just so instrumental in how life is shaped and how you're perceived and things of that sort. And of course, Michael Jordan, without a doubt. Just again, what is it like? What would it be like? What is your, just all of that when you were at Chapel Hill and no one knew you, and you have become this mogul of, the sports world.
Right.
So, those are kind of probably those few.
You mentioned your interest in sports. What do you like to do when you're not at work?
I do like sports. Uh, when I was younger, I would invest, endless time gazing at the TV and get into a trance. That's no longer the case. I spoke to my daughters. Now I relish the moments that I can spend with them.
Okay.
I have a grandson now. He's 16 months old. And the moments that I can spend with him those are, ever heard of heaven on earth?
Yeah.
He provides for those moments. And again, as I spoke to seeing the residents happy and joy, the twinkle in their eye, when I see that in my daughters, my wife, when I see that in them, that makes me happy. That gives me, that completes my day. I've had a good day. If they're happy, oh, I'm Peter.
Yeah.
I am walking on water. So that's, and again, because I don't have the time to put, 2 hours into just watching a game. Although I'm very interested, I can catch the same thing in 6 minutes or 3 minutes on ESPN.
Yes.
And I'm abreast of everything that happened, the highs and the lows, and I'm good. So spending time with family, that's high on the list.
Yeah.
That's very high on the list.
So, Chauncey, are there any things that we haven't talked about that you had thought would either come up or that you wanted to bring up that we haven't gotten to?
Uh, Actually, I really didn't know what to expect. I just kind of based it on when you first approached me. You had said it would be, non-threatening, non-confrontational. It would be a very easy time,
So have you found it? So, yeah.
and it's provided for that, a very just
Good.
easy conversation. And so, again, the expectations really had none. Just wanted to come into it with an open mind, open heart, uh, just open conversation, and go from there. So there were no expectations.
All right. We thank you very much for joining us today.
All right.
And we thank our audience for tuning in and joining us for our first session of this new year. And we'll look forward to seeing you next Friday. Thank you.